Hello and welcome back to another episode of SuperCoach Insider. My name is Ben.
And I am the Chris that just stuffed up a whole bunch of shit.
So we might actually just release that anyway, the Geelong at 2.0, if you like to hear our advice twice, that'll happen. So unfortunately, because we did have the audio issues, it was Chris's turn to record the teams that he had researched, and he went for one that he'd already released.
I
didn't pick up on it because we were re-recording. So today is the double down on re-recording of the G's. Geelong.
There's too
GWS.
many G teams, to be fair.
To be fair.
Yeah, it's not really my fault so much as it's the alphabet's fault.
Anyway, we're blaming Chris. So anyway, you can find us facebook.com/SC Insider. Twitter, it is SC_Insider_. And on Twitch, Chris.
Twitch.tv/SC_Insider. And obviously find us on all major podcast platforms, including SoundCloud,
Spotify,
Google Podcasts,
everywhere.
iTunes, you name it, we're there.
You name it, we get around.
We do.
Okay, so GWS, Chris, are the number one SuperCoach scoring side in the competition.
They are.
Which makes them very SuperCoach relevant if they can all stay on the park.
That's true. That's their one big issue, is that they literally have never been able to just keep their best 22 on the park.
Oh, that's what we need to do. We need to play the big sound for this one.
Yeah, that was fantastic last year. That was good.
That was good.
That was good for about 5 minutes until they got smashed by
That would have to have been much more entertaining than their performance on the grand final.
The entire Twitter
So
performance
good.
for 24 hours before the actual bounce.
Yeah.
Fantastic. But look, obviously GWS, they have a great buy. They've got the round 14 buy, which is the best buy for players to get you through the buys.
Yeah, premiums and rookies for sure.
Of course, yeah. So, but it's very heavy for premiums, that buy. So you also got to be a little bit careful with how many you do. But if you're going to choose someone from GWS, make sure it's not a breakout contender. Make sure it's a fully fledged premium that you think is going to be at least able to play you through to those rounds.
Someone that's not going to hurt you to the point where you're like, oh, I have to keep them until the buys, and then you don't even like them.
Absolutely. They do have a decent start to the season. So they've got Geelong at home, Melbourne at the G, Dogs at Canberra, Sydney Derby, and then, of course, Gold Coast. So decent start. Their finals run's a little bit different. It's I think it's probably better than their start. Sydney at home, Brisbane at Canberra, Geelong away, and then Freo at home before they play Port Adelaide in round 23. So not a bad little finals run there. Their double-up games are Sydney, Geelong, Dogs, Tigers, and Essendon, which is pretty good, considering, I think, Geelong that we just did again. They've got a very, very tough draw. Their double-ups aren't that bad, and it helps that, obviously, Sydney's not very competitive at the moment. And Essendon are a rabble always, so that's always good.
I think in my subconsciousness, Chris, I'm going to pick Geelong players now for some stupid reason. I wonder why.
Fair call. We've done, it's the second time we did that for no reason. I'm so upset. Anyway, all good. So I do feel for GWS, of course. Last year was literally a case of what could have been. The biggest thing with GWS is that they made the grand final with a bit part midfield and half of their team injured for most of the year. So they had massive injuries, but for Kelly, Canelio, Patton, Ward, Davis, Mumford,
Williams,
Whitfield, but they were able to get some development into the younger guys. So guys like Haitley finally got some game time.
Yeah.
Corwell, of course, Ian Hill.
people like Taranto got actually a real run in the midfield.
Absolutely.
And Green got a run through.
Yeah, which kind of inflated their price massively, which made them really poor picks this year. But
yes, now he's green in price.
Absolutely green. So look, I don't see a lot of rookie development this year if their players stay on the park. And it's a massive if because they've had injury worries.
Even people like Caldwell would have been great if he didn't play those 2 games, and he would have been probably 123k. But the problem is he played a couple of games because of the injury affectedness of the team, and he's still like high 190s. I'm like, well, what the F?
Absolutely. And look, what I would say about GWS's year last year is the way that they were, first of all, able to manage their injuries, but second of all, the way that Leon Cameron coached. I think I was just really impressed with him as a coach in general.
Yes.
His ability to read the opposition and adjust his team to suit how to counterplay them is probably second to none in the AFL, in my opinion. I think most coaches play to their strengths, try and enforce their game plan.
Not a one-trick pony. Like, you see some coaches, they're like, well, what have you done? You haven't done anything. You just stick to what you know, and there's no plan B, there's no plan C. Whereas they come in and go, okay, so we're playing this team, this is their strengths, let's tweak a few things, and we're going to throw a different strategy at them.
Absolutely.
Which makes them hard to plan for. You know what I mean? If you're hard to plan for them, then essentially GWS then get a better opportunity to run the style of game that they want, and they tend to score better and win games and, score for SuperCoach.
Well, and part of that is purely just, I think you can do that when you've just got talent all over the park. So when you've got a stupidly talented side, and I think they are probably the most talented AFL side right now.
Yes.
In terms of the people they've got, you can kind of just do whatever you want because you'll win the ball at the contest. So, oh yeah, we'll change this, but then we'll win it here. We'll win it here. They can do that because they've got just talent everywhere.
Chris.
Yes.
I forgot to ask you, and I know you've asked you this already. However, Chris Chilcott does want an answer to his question, Chris.
Yep.
Would you rather fight a a Shane Mumford-sized duck, or 20 duck-sized Shane Mumfords?
I would rather fight one Shane Mumford-sized duck, to be fair.
Really?
Yeah, just snotty mine, I'm good.
Jeez,
I
I'd
mean,
rather...
these guns got little... They got a little power behind them. I got this covered.
Jeez, you got a 1-2. That's
Plus, ducks really don't have arms. I mean, they're just going to quack at me. So it's like, whatever.
You are a quack.
Just grab them by the bill and just be like, yeah, whatever. Boom,
Mate,
boom, get in there. Yeah, get in, yeah.
You've never paid a bill in your life.
That's true.
I actually disagree, Chris. I'm going to go with the 20 duck-sized Mumfords because Mumford, as we know, has about at least a 50% chance of getting injured. So I reckon 10 of those ducks will be gone by the time they try and fight me.
Well, that's also true. Plus, I've heard a rumour. If you just go down to the park and grab some fish and chips and maybe a bit of Coke and just sprinkle that everywhere.
Chris, you cannot make those jokes. Are you implying, Chris, that these ducks have white line fever?
Oh, of course they do. If they're Mumford-sized ducks.
Jesus.
Surely they do.
All right, let's move on. Thank you for that question. I don't know if we can say really thank you, but look, Chris, that's Chris Chilcott.
Totally work it.
Interesting. Thank you.
So the one thing that I will say was consistent throughout their game plan in 2019 was the one pure, very obvious fact to everyone is kick it to Whitfield. If Whitfield's on the ground and they're moving the ball from defence, it's where is Lockie Whitfield? We're going to kick to him. Get him open, get him free, and then we'll launch our attack.
It's the Bobby Boucher of GWS.
It's legitimately
Bobby Boucher is in offence. He's in defence. Bobby Boucher is a blocker.
And they work to get him out. So, like, even if he's getting locked down, they would work to get him free. And so I just found that fascinating the entire year. When he was not playing, it was kick it to Zach Williams. So either way, they had that outlet who's a fantastic... They are both absolutely beautiful kicks of the football. Yep. But moving the ball forward out of defence is kick it to Whitfield. If he's not available, kick it to Williams.
You know what, Chris? He was also free when he was injured because he wasn't playing.
Absolutely. Or last year when he was hiding out at that guy's Lambert's house.
Yes.
Yeah, do you remember that? Yeah,
that was the year before.
Yeah, that was good gear.
That was the year before when he missed the first 8 rounds.
That was definitely good gear.
Good gear. And that is a rule for everyone: never trust your ex-girlfriend. What? They're never going to say anything nice about you. They're going to stitch you up everywhere.
That's true, of course. She can make a little bit of money out of it as well.
We don't have those issues anymore. Chris.
Plus, she probably lost heaps of Instagram followers, so... That's all they're good for these days. Anyway, in the off-season, of course, Dawson Simpson retired. Brett Delidio, champion of the game, retired. Adam Tomlinson went to Melbourne. John Patton went to the Hawks. Aidan Bonner went to North. Sam Jacobs, they got from Adelaide, of course. They did retain Tom Sheridan, Zach Sproul, and Nick Shipley. But they also have retained Shane Mumford, which seems to be more of a trigger clause style. Yeah, you're a backup, but we don't expect you to play at all. Or...
Look, I'm glad they kept Shipley because I heard he was set to sail.
He's actually really good. Like, the fact that Shipley hasn't had sustained time in an AFL side is upsetting. His numbers are through the roof in the NEFL, and I suppose that's probably for most players in the NEFL that are on an AFL list. But
that's true.
He should. I'm hoping that he gets some sort of game time this year. He's actually rookie priced again.
I know. Someone's got to go all in on him. They got to ship the biscuits.
Yeah, that's right. But let's get into the premiums. Of course, we've got Zach Williams in defence, 551k. And look, I'm surprised he actually didn't hit midfield status and get the defender midfield swing.
Yes.
Played a huge amount of midfield minutes.
Because of the injuries.
Absolutely.
And with a fully fit side, I don't see him doing anything more than maybe a pinch hit through there, which realistically means that he did score really well in defence anyway, but then Whitfield was out for quite a lot of games. So then if it's not Whitfield, it's Williams. And then because they had injuries in the midfield, Williams went into the midfield. So
it's interesting that you say that.
Is he, like, I know he's relevant, obviously, but is he going to go up in price or is he overpriced?
I think he's overpriced. And I'll tell you why. And you hit a nail on the head right there. When Zach Williams played without Lockie Whitfield, he averaged 118 points per game. When he was with Whitfield, it was under 100. Right. So there's a huge disparity between the games where Whitfield was the primary mover out of defence and when Zach Williams got that gig. So I would say 100%.
Okay.
overpriced.
Can you explain for the people at home that are like, but hang on, Whitfield was a forward, so how could he be in defence, Chris?
So the 6-6-6 rule, which basically means 6 forwards need to start, 6 midfielders need to start, and 6 defenders started. Lockie Whitfield did one of two things. He either started on a half-forward flank or started on a wing and immediately rotated behind the ball.
Yep.
If he wasn't behind the ball, he was on a wing. So if he's a forward, he's moving to the wing. If he's a midfielder, he's moving to defence. He never actually stayed where he was stationed.
No. And the benefit is if he did start on the forward flank, if you're really fit like a Whitfield, you could... So if you're on the wing and you try and push into the back line, chances are your wing sometimes might actually follow you in towards the back line. If you run from a forward flank all the way into defence, they're not going to follow you.
Absolutely. So
Not the chances are less. So it's kind of one of those things that you might sort of fiddle with. But the benefit for us is that we have a really good forward option.
Yep.
If he can play a full season.
Now, I do think there is some merit to the fact that Zach Williams may get more forward time, which could spike his average a little bit, even though he kind of averaged the same playing midfield that he did in defence. I just think that those high scores that he got in defence, if Lockie Whitfield's there the whole season, which hopefully he will be, you're not going to get those higher scores. So if he transitions to midfield, I can see him maintaining and increasing his average slightly. But the only way that happens is their new draft pick, Lachlan Ash, who they got at pick 4. He's a halfback flanker with elite kicking skills. And he's ready to go. So there's every chance that GWS actually pull the trigger there. But knowing GWS, knowing how they operate, knowing that they never play rookies...
No, they like to make them wait 2 years and then give them a season and trade them.
They're just too talented. So why would you put him in? So there'd have to be space in the midfield for Lachlan Ash to come in to push Zach Williams out to go midfield. And unfortunately, they've got 2 players returning from injury, which is Callum Ward and Steve Canelio. I don't think there's room there. So I don't think Lachlan Ash plays first game. I also don't think that Zach Williams gets midfield minutes. I think it's more of the same. I think he probably averages 95 to 102-ish.
Yeah. I still think he's a good player, but...
Which is still good. It's still going to be top 10.
And he still has a good buy round. So I don't mind people picking him because he has been in and out of my side a little bit this time. So
I'm just, for me, slightly overpriced. And I'm not going to be spending $550K on a slightly overpriced defender. To me, that's just too much money. I'm not going to take that risk. Also, the other fact is that he's only ever played 20 games a season. So he's never played a full season of football. And of course, he had an ACL. It was Achilles injury, sorry.
Achilles 2 years ago, yes.
Yeah. So to me, if you're paying $550K for a guy that only plays 20 games, that's unreliable for a role right now, and we can't really depend on his scoring.
Yeah, he could easily smash it out of the gate, but at the same time, have some caution and on your expectations, because as we've said many times, everyone's going up this time of year. Everyone's going to average more. Everyone's going to get more midfield minutes, or everyone's killing it in the preseason.
Absolutely.
So, teams also remember teams want to build up the hype. Sometimes, yes, they'll give some insight onto
everyone's playing midfield,
onto what's happening and the things that they're messing with, but doesn't mean that just because they're trying it now, when they go into the JLT, they might give it a try, and if it doesn't work, then bang, that person's out of that rotation. Yeah,
I completely agree. And look, I don't think that Zach Williams, in terms of his spot in the 22, is ever in question. I think he's absolute gun midfielder and gun defender, but he's definitely more value to them off the halfback flank with their ball movement. So
and I think less risk than Sicily. I think Sicily probably has a little bit more upside if he gets the right role.
That's right.
But less swing.
I can't see Zach Williams averaging 110 and blowing us out of the water and being like an absolute bona fide top 1, top 2 SuperCoach performer. So to me, it's
100 mark. I expect. I thought he'd break out before he did his Achilles.
It's just not, and great buy. So it's not a bad pick. It's just like Other defenders of note, mainly for draft, really, of course. Nick Haynes, obviously, intercepting defender. He averaged 87 last year. And then, of course, Heath Shaw. He's averaged 82, but draft value, he occasionally can win you a game with a 140, So
D5 maybe for a heater. Haynes was actually quite good, I think, for them this year. So
absolutely.
Yep.
Let's move on to the midfield, and we've got some absolute jets.
Oh, the best.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
Josh Kelly, of course, unfortunately played 14 games, but he's 637K, averaged 117. And look, he's just a jet. At the end of the day, he's just absolutely... If anyone's watched GWS play...
He is.
He can be inside, he can be outside, he can change a game, he can kick goals. He does everything. He's a complete midfielder. The
problem was, though, is that he did have some, was it hip or groin issues
all year.
Coming
into the year. Then...
Coming into the season last year. So he didn't really have much of a preseason. Didn't even play round one. Came in just after. So for me, if you're having issues with your hip and your groin, you're not running too much, you're not extending out, then you come in, you're trying to hit full fitness, you're playing a midfield role, inside, outside, and you run a lot. So I think trying to play catch-up could have actually added to the fact that he did have that minor calf issue.
Yep.
If he has a full preseason this year, he's only, 9.5 or 9.9% owned. If he has a full preseason, and I'm saying if, he has the skills. If he gets a good run at it for the preseason, they play Gold Coast twice. Mm-hmm. He could average you 130 odd. He could blow.
He's the guy.
He could go from 117. He could go the next level. And
but I mean, even if you look at his scoring history, I mean, the year before was 114. He's improved every single year.
Yep, but he
just hasn't got the time on the park.
And the reason he averages well is because his base is so high.
Absolutely.
He hasn't scored under 80 since, was it 2016? 2016.
Last year,
maybe?
case in point, scored 3 scores under 100. It was 82, 95, and 97. The 82 and the 95 were both games he came back from injury.
Yep.
And Leon Cameron didn't play him in the guts. He played him on a wing.
Yeah.
So
take it easy, mate.
Legitimately, you take those scores out. I mean, I would never take those scores out because there's every chance he plays a little bit outside this year. But I just can't see a situation. If he doesn't get injured, he's a top 3 midfielder, potentially the first.
Yeah.
Upside's huge upside.
But again, if you're playing with risk elsewhere, you could probably want to minimise the risk on that line.
And that's the issue, right? The risk is the injury. So here's the counter argument to that. If you do want to have him in your team at some stage this year, you should start with him because you're saving at least one trade.
Correct. And that's what I did with Nat Fyfe last year. I thought if I start with him, because if he goes on a heater, I don't want to bring him in. Because if my argument is that he's too injury prone, you can't bring him in because you're bringing them in only to then possibly trade them out. Their risk of injury is the same. If you start with them and they get injured, well, you know that Josh Kelly's going to average you well up until the point he gets injured, so you're going to be able to sideways trade him anyway. And that's the thing. You don't have to burn a trade to bring them in, only to trade them out if they get injured. You start with them, and then you enjoy the ride. And
Absolutely.
If the ride finishes, then you say thanks very much.
2 other positives about... one positive, one negative about also picking Josh Kelly. He's the one midfielder, in the best midfielders, that's role's not changing, right? Cornelio's got the chance that he'll play forward because he can kick goals.
Ward might mix them up for if a Taranto starts killing, they might rotate through.
Exactly right.
Ward might come in. Ward might do something else.
Who's not going anywhere?
Josh Kelly.
Josh Kelly's not going anywhere. He's not. Now, the one bad thing is that he shares the bye, obviously, with the Western Bulldogs.
Yes.
Who have 3 premium options in the midfield this year.
So, yeah, if you're starting 2 of those dogs, you could go a Kelly. But
if you're starting 3...
If you're starting with 3 dogs, you can't go Kelly. No.
And then it starts to be risky. But you got to also remember that Matt Rowell has that same bye as well. So then you obviously got to trade Rowell at that round 14 at the absolute latest. So look, that's just one little bit of concern if you can even up your buy structure.
I was going to say, the good thing about that buy is that, Gold Coast and those kind of teams do have that buy, which means that you're not actually going to want any premiums from those other sides. So the buys you have, the only issue is though, Hawks have the buy. So if you have a Titch, you can't have 2 dogs, Titch and Kelly.
Yep.
That's 4.
There's no way you could carry 4.
But otherwise, Suns, Adelaide and North. Not really. Adelaide, if you want to start a Sloan and you want to be risky, then sure, that comes into consideration.
It depends how you see Titch, because I see Titch as someone that you're probably going to want to have before the buys.
Yes, so do I. So that's interesting then, because Kelly, 2 dogs, and Titch.
Exactly right. So pick your poison.
Yeah, it's hard.
If you start Kelly, then here's the thing. What you can do is this. Start Kelly. Maybe he gets injured, because he probably will.
Bring in Titch.
Bang, Titch, done. I think I've just solved everyone's problem.
You're
fucking welcome. What can I say except you're welcome?
You're welcome.
Thank you very much. That was good. All right, now moving on to Taranto. Had a great year, 55k mid. Yes. He averaged 102, but look,
he really benefited when others went out of the side.
Absolutely.
You look, even his scores, it's you look at his averages when Kelly's gone or Cornelio's gone. He averaged well through the roof.
And so he's one that unfortunately I can't see. If they have a fit 22 going into round 1, I can't see him averaging anywhere close to 102. He's going to be playing more forward minutes. I think he's more 90-95. As a midfield option, completely write him off. Draft, I wouldn't be picking him at 102.
No.
I'll let that one fly.
At a risk, you could probably take him around 100 and hope he kind of maintains value. He did have some high ceiling games, and he's not the worst option in the world. But again,
he tackles big. He racks at the ball. He can't use it for
No, but
his kicking is erratic.
He's over average. You're basically hoping if you pick him up at a 102 average, you are hoping for natural development.
110 plus,
and for him
right?
to be more efficient. No, but as in to average more the same in the same position because of natural development.
Maybe. At best case scenario, he averages the same playing forward mid.
I think McCluggage out averages him this year.
Oh, I agree.
Okay.
I get that.
You agree with me?
I agree with you. Yes, I absolutely do. And I think McCluggage is cheaper, right? He's probably like 20, 30k cheaper.
He is. Not for standard. For draft, you could try and get him around the 100 mark, but someone's going to pay 102 average for him and let them.
Oh, I can't wait to just pip you at the post of McCluggage.
Fuck you. But, Taranto, you might... I think a 98 sort of average would be a safer place to pick him, but in your draft leagues, people are going to pick him at a 102.
People are going to pick him 105, man.
Yeah.
People are going to pick him 105,
I'll pick Cornelio first.
Good. I would, and that leads us on to our next midfielder, 549k. Cornelio 101.2. Cornelio! He's obviously slightly underpriced, so people who don't listen to our podcast or don't watch football, they won't know, but he was injured on 0 in round 17, which ended his season. So his actual true average is 108.4, so he's 7 points underpriced.
Did you have him for that 0, Chris?
I didn't. No. Was not on the Cornelio. Oh, maybe I was.
I think you were.
No, I traded him.
I had a 0.
I think I had him traded.
After he got injured, probably. I think you brought him in because he was so cheap you couldn't turn him down, as I did.
Oh, no, I made some bad decisions last year.
Yep.
So, on 2 occasions, played 21 games, but unfortunately, 6 seasons out of his 8, he's missed 4 or more games, which is a massive concern for something as skillful as Cornelio.
Yes.
He can be a super damaging midfielder. He tackles, he kicks goals, he runs forward. His work rate is super high. He's a decent disposer of the football without being fantastic. But
I wonder how the captaincy will affect him this year. Will he lift?
I think he's been a captain all of his life.
Yeah, true.
So to me, someone like Cornelio getting a captaincy is just a natural progression.
The new name is CC, Captain Cornelio.
Captain Cornelio.
Call him CCs.
I do like Cornelio as an option for standard. My only concern is he top tier? Even if he plays 22 games, is he going to be 110 plus?
And even if he is, well, even if he hits 110, he might be he might be a top 10 option, but he's not. I don't think he's top 8 option. He might scrape in like he has previously, but you want the top.
Well, the problem is with the round 14 bye, you're waiting to round 15 to upgrade to him.
And then out of that round 15, he is still Dunkley, McRae, Bontempelli, Titch,
all these other
Kelly.
Oliver's the one that I'd go ahead of
Kelly. I'm just saying Kelly, so that he'd be 6th highest midfielder for that bye, which means you can't.
For the bye.
For the bye, yep.
Yeah. So look, I'm of the opinion. Look, if you want to start, I'm not saying it's a bad thing. I think
it's risky, but
you've got a call there. He's underpriced. He's undervalued. He's going to be super unique. So I can see the pick, and he's cheap. He's 549k. So you're probably saving a little bit of money. But is he going to be top tier? Probably not. If he plays out the year, he's probably going to be your M8.
Yep, and if you're thinking about picking him in standard, ask any Cornelio owner that started him last year, and they will probably tell you otherwise.
Yes, but standard draft relevancy,
big value.
105, you reckon pick him up? You got to get a bit of value out of him.
Easy.
I think he's worth 105 in a draft value situation.
Yeah, easy.
So
I would happily have Cornelio as my M2 or 3. Depending on where you pick in other lines.
Absolutely.
Cornelio at M2, there's a good little VC option if you have like someone else.
I also, we redraw on this quite a bit, but I love watching players that are just really good players.
He hits the scoreboard, he can bang out some 130s. I don't mind him.
Yep, good player. On to the next injury concern, which seems to be every single midfielder at GWS. Callum Ward, 511k mid. And to be completely honest, SuperCoach absolutely stuffed us here because...
Yeah,
busted his ACL on 4 in round 1, so they didn't take that average into concern, obviously, and they just gave him a really shallow price deduction of I think it was 10%.
511k for a guy that did his ACL in round 1 on 4 is horrible.
And worst part of all of that, he's not even the greatest of SE players. Like he's a perennial 100 to 105 SuperCoach averaging guy, so. It's not like he's a Titch that's 134 average and, it's going to be fantastic. Everyone's going to be on him.
Even Titch they reamed us on.
Oh, absolutely they reamed us. So, he's a notorious late bloomer. So, coming back from an ACL, he'll play early.
Yep.
But don't start him. If you need someone late in the season,
He could
I
go
don't
on,
mind.
he could go on.
He can go on a
heater.
6-8 game run and go 120 for 6 games. You know?
I think we mentioned on the Geelong second round podcast.
Yeah.
But yeah, I picked him up real cheap in a draft league, and he averaged 115 for like the last 10 rounds, and
Absolutely.
he has done that previously. I think one season he went really big early. People jumped on him in standard. I think it was maybe 2 years ago, and then he plateaued.
Absolutely.
A couple of seasons ago. So
now others that are more draft relevant, of course, Hopper is one to consider. I don't think, again, he has enough mid-minutes to make it worth it. And this is kind of the theme. Like, all of these mid-players coming back, if they're round one midfield, should be
everyone's
Cornelio,
inflated.
Kelly, Ward. That's their three best midfielders.
Everyone's inflated. Hopper's inflated because of the minutes they got. Toby Green's inflated because of the midfield minutes he got.
Absolutely.
The injuries they had, those points, they were still scoring well points because the roles are there and they have such good talent. But it means, like, as we've said previously, it's role dependent. The better the role, the more points.
SuperCoach is role dependent.
Yep.
And, I mean, sometimes the team creates a role around a player because they're that good. But, like, that's a Lockie Whitfield situation where halfback flankers usually don't possess the ball that much. But, of course, you're Lockie Whitfield, so your skills are that good. Anyway, moving on to the ruck, and of course, apart from Shane Mumford, who's basically retired but still on the list, Sam Jacobs, 348k ruck. We got a bit lucky here with Sam Jacobs.
Cornelio, 13.5% owned. Jacobs is 12.3. Callum Ward, Toby Green is 8.1. Lachlan Ash is actually at 7.4, which is good. And it looks like not many people have started Ward, which is probably a good sign.
Yeah, that's pretty standard, I'd assume. That's probably good that people understand he's probably overpriced for his production early in the season. But Sam Jacobs...
2.4 for Ward.
2.4.
Yeah, still enough.
The first thing I'll say that if you are not locking in Grundy Gawn, in my opinion, this is my only opinion, I don't know if it's your opinion.
Yes, you only have one more option.
The only other option is Sam Jacobs. It's the only one that makes sense from a SuperCoach standard perspective. There's a few reasons why, but I'll go through that. First and foremost, he's 348k, so he's cheap enough that he can make you enough money. He can still make you or get you to 500k. You can go on a run, have a few hundreds, bang, I'm at 500k.
He's been notorious to knock out the old 140 and that kind of thing
Absolutely.
as well. So, and he is tapping to a delightful midfield.
Oh, much better. Like, in Adelaide, right, and we've proven this over stats with the Adelaide podcast, they were 15th for centre clearances in the year.
Yes.
So, yes, Riley O'Brien was tapping to them, which obviously is a little bit different from Sam Jacobs, which they would have had the previous years. However, Jacobs is a notoriously great hit-out to advantage ruckman. His best work is a tap ruckman. He gets high hit-out numbers and high hit-out to advantage numbers. He doesn't really get many possessions or tackles or marks around the ground. So he gets most of his points from hit-outs to advantage.
And if he does get a mark, he's usually handballing it off to a midfielder or a defender that can actually use the ball.
Absolutely. So he, with that better midfield, an outgoing ruckman that averaged... Mumford averaged 86 last year.
Yeah.
It's a decent average considering
Mumford gave away...
how terrible he was in the back end of the year.
And how many free kicks against Mumford had. He led
the league.
By a lot.
Yeah.
He had I don't even know. I don't want to speculate, but it was like 20 or 30 more free kicks against than any other player in the league.
Take that in consideration. Let's say he doesn't have 3-4 a game, which is unfortunately what he had. I think there's every opportunity for Sam Jacobs to average around about 95 points per game next year.
Yeah, I think
now, if he does that, he's a valid selection. Unfortunately, if he only goes 85, I don't think it's enough to warrant choosing him.
No.
Because I think 95 means is a good stepping stone to Gawn. Now, the other thing is best buy
again
for SuperCoach. So it has that round 14 buy. Gawn has the round 13 buy. So in round 14, it's a simple sideways trade straight to Gawn, down, up.
The reason that comes into effect is that if you go Jacobs in the R2 position, it means you can have possibly the sixth midfielder that you were longing for. Now, you might start with that extra premium. So it's no longer, okay, what say Jacob scores compared to Gawn. It's more like, okay, so what does a Lachie Neale score compared to Gawn? And then you use that midfield option. And the good thing is that you actually pick up that round that they have the bye.
Yep.
You pick up 80 points or whatever he scores in that bye round. You then add that to your score. So it can be really good as far as instead of having those two not playing on that line, you can pick up 80 to 100 points maybe for the bye round that Jacobs does play and Gawn and Grundy are gone. And then if your midfielder or whoever else you're supplementing for scores well, you could actually be ahead on points.
Absolutely. So in my opinion, there's a few great things you can do with that extra cash. I mean, you're looking at about 350k. So
it's a lot.
A rookie with 350k is up to, say, a Darcy Parish
Yep.
or a Jordan Dawson or one of those sort of speculative mid-prices.
For instance, if you end up going, okay, instead of going a cockatoo or somewhere other, you just go like a basement rookie, and instead of saying maybe starting Real, you can start an Oliver. That's basically what it means.
Absolutely. And so does that equate, and this is what we've got to work out, is that 30 points per game? Because I think Gawn is odds on for a 125 average, especially over the first 11 games. That's all you care about. So we're not talking about a 22-game average. We're only talking about 11-game average.
Yeah, and if
what is the
Clary,
difference
if
between
Clary
those?
averages 115, so then it's like, will Jacobs average you 15 points more than Real and still generate some cash?
I think Rao's lucky to average 80. So.
Yeah, so there's that 95, so it comes down to a kind of an even race. Really.
Exactly right. Yeah, so it does depend on that. Now, the other consideration is by having Sam Jacobs and by having however else you spend your money, how much does that impact your trades? You know, by having Gawn, that's a lock, set and forget. So you're not going to trade him unless he gets injured. By having Jacobs, you are going to trade him at some point.
Yes.
So the extra money, you're spreading that around. Are you getting more speculative mid prices that require trades? Or are you getting a bona fide premium that's going to be top in his position?
Yes.
And therefore, you're in the same position, but you've got that little bit of advantage.
Yep. So it's guaranteed. If you have Jacobs, you have to trade him at some point.
Absolutely.
And I know Chris's line of thinking is, Chris is like, okay, well, for the 350k, I think I'll start Gawn and I'll start a Jack Stevens, who could be a top 10 pick in his line.
Absolutely.
And if he is a Jack Stevens or even a Devon Smith, for those that have faith in him, he will then be he will be a keeper, which means that you save a trade and you have some good value.
Which is why I've sort of flipped my coin from Jacobs to Stevens for that mid-price option.
Yes. The other thing to note is that if Sam Jacobs does flop at 350k, if he gets injured early or he doesn't score you very well, you are then essentially stuck. Because you can't afford that 350k unless you have to downgrade multiple people.
Well, there's options. I mean,
there are, but either way, they're not keeper options.
No, none of them are keeper options. They're all the same position, but
correct.
you're wasting a trade.
So you will have to one up to a Nick Nat, hopefully, if he doesn't spike. Either way, you're not going to get a top 2 or 3 ruckman if Jacobs goes down.
You've got to go down because you probably won't have the money. So it's Sam Naismith, it's Sam Draper, and it's Darcy Cameron if you don't have any of those three.
The only way I see Jacobs being a good move is if Cameron looks like he is playing and looks like he is set in that position. Because at least you have some cover to kind of get you by. It'll be...
I can tell you this. I don't hate it. I don't hate it either. I don't hate it a lot more than I definitely hate Nick Nat. And I'll probably go through that in the West Coast pod. But that move just makes zero sense to me at all. But I can see... scenarios where this works out.
And I've had him in my side, and I love what I can do with him in my side.
What I hate more is just saying, just Gawn and Grundy. It's not that simple.
No.
There's every chance. I mean, until the last round of the season, Goldstein was a better pick than Gawn last year. It was literally the last round, a dead rubber match where Gawn goes 212 and Goldstein goes 65 in the same game. They played each other. Like, it was a dead rubber game for North Melbourne, and Gawn just went in hand. They still lost the game, by the way. But he went 212. So there's... If it's not that game, Goldstein's the better pick. Imagine, and everyone's overlooking that, going like, whatever. Yeah, no, that's true. And especially because when Gawn missed, he was a laid out, and it was after it was 2 minutes before lock. Remember we were at Felons.
Yeah, it sucked.
We had a mate's birthday. You come up to me and go, bro, Gawn's a laid out. Trade him now. And I was like, what do you mean? So I legit got on my phone 2 minutes to spare before lockout and trade in Goldstein.
Yep.
It's not as simple as just locking in Gawn and Grundy. I think Grundy's the safest pick of the year, just based on age, profile, list depth, the fact that Collingwood aren't changing anything.
Not only that, most years the rucks do change as far as who is the leading ruck. Now, the problem is we've been blessed for the last couple of seasons. People get this false sense of security that the number 1 and 2 rucks are always going to stay the number 1 and 2 rucks. And I for one, I can't see a world where it's not Grundy and Gawn. But to just completely dismiss every other option, it's possible that, maybe Goldstein does come back out and Gawn has issues. It's, someone else just takes the mantle. Like even Lysette could just absolutely dominate. and be the only person doing something for Port Adelaide.
The other
You never know what's going to happen.
The other consideration is there's this big conjecture that Melbourne have this ridiculously awesome fixture.
That'll be coming up soon.
Well, they don't really, because Melbourne is still shit. It's like, and Ruckman is the one position on the field where it doesn't matter who's better than who in terms of team wise. It's who's better Ruckman.
Yeah,
that's what scores better. So
the other good thing with Jacobs is that if you do start him, that you can then trade him to whoever is the number 1 and 2 ruck that you don't have at the time. So if it is Goldie, if it is Gawn, you can then get in that person. Whereas if you start a keeper,
Goldie and Gawn, you're keeping them forever.
Yeah, you're keeping them.
You've paid top dollar.
Yeah, you've paid top dollar. Even if there's 5 or 10 points difference, that's too late.
Again, there's probably a little bit more speculation, but Scott Lysette, I'll tell you what, if you look at his numbers, he's scary good last year.
Yeah.
And he could, by all imaginations, all of a sudden pop up another 10 points per game and be in contention for that number 1 or 2 spot.
He could be 115 and we'd all be like...
Absolutely
We'd be like, fair.
He had some huge games last year.
Big ceiling. And not only that, he actually had, when Ryder was in this team to start with...
This is what I mean.
He started off big and then he plateaued out and he still averaged big numbers.
Look at his numbers. Look at how many games he played with Ryder and then think, okay, what are the games he played without Ryder? Look at his averages, then go... Jesus, this is a real threat.
Yeah.
A real threat. So
that's the benefit. There's pros and cons to both sides. We don't mind whichever one you do. So
it's good to talk about it. It's good to think. Don't just pigeonhole yourself to going, I'm just doing this and I'm done.
Go in with an open mind, see what it can do for your team and see what you prefer. If you look at it and go, ooh, I don't like that option, then don't do it. That's
simple.
Yeah.
But just don't close yourself off to all the different options out there.
Yep.
Anyway, forward line, not much to go, guys. Sorry, this has been a long pod. Toby Green, 510k forward. Of course, we've already chatted about Toby. Don't think his mid-time's going to be anywhere near there.
No. He's so damaging forward. You can't.
That's the issue.
And they're so loaded in the midfield. If anything, Taranto and Hopper are getting more mid-time than Toby Green.
So he's overall...
In our opinion, I think.
He's obviously 510k. So you can look at it two ways. He averaged 93.9 for the season. But when he transitioned to midfield, he averaged 121 points per game. If he's going to be in the midfield, which I think is a huge if, probably the biggest if of their entire midfield section we've already talked about.
Yeah.
Then great, he's underpriced. But I don't think that's going to happen. Also, he's, again, another player that is notoriously injured all the time.
That is true.
So...
The only way I see it working is if maybe he's forward and then if Cornelio is going to rest forward to try and snag a goal, maybe Green will go in for a pinch hit.
He's always pinched hit, though. That's not going to change. Look, Green's good year, he's averaging 90.
Oh, no, I think 95... he's done like 95 to 100 before. Yeah, 95.
Yeah, no, but those years he was playing midfield. He was younger in his defence.
I think 95 is kind of realistic as a forward.
Well, then 95, you can sort of go as a forward. Oh, he's probably still going to be top 10.
Ish. It's at a pinch.
Goodbye.
Yeah.
I don't know. I'm not sold on him, I can tell you that.
I'm not sold on him. I'm not picking him at that.
I think he's overpriced.
I'd rather pick a Heaney for the same price.
Yeah. I mean...
I would.
Higher case of a total overall points being better.
Yeah. And I think his average will be better.
True.
So...
other one, Burnman McGee, Jeremy Cameron, 92.9. He ended up after a blazing start.
Yeah, when will people learn, Chris? Don't pick people with 2 first names.
And I think that's all we really
Rule
need to say
number
there.
1, don't pick
I was going to say, don't pick a key forward. You're like, no, you have 2 first names, bro.
Don't pick a key forward with 2 first names.
Right, yes, absolutely. Now onto the rookies. There is a couple of relevant stuff here. Not too much, but I will touch briefly on my first pick, Kieran Briggs, forward defender, 123k. So I'm very interested in starting him, and for reasons other than what's probably regular in the scheme of things. But given GWS's thin ruck stocks, so they've basically got Jacobs, then they've got Mumford if he's fit at the time, and then they've got Briggs. So Briggs was last year's first GWS pick. And the best ruckman of the season. Sorry, not first pick.
Yeah, I'm looking at you.
He was the first ruckman taken last year. He was the highest, the most touted ruckman in the draft last year. It
was a shallow draft for ruckman.
Yeah, so I think it was a late teens pick. Anyway, so they obviously want to put some development into it. Last year in the Midfield, he played forward and back, so that's why he's got his forward defender swing. But he's yet to play at senior level, of course. So his ability to play forward means that he could be someone that they partner with Jacobs. And he plays forward and rucks. Because previously they've done Tomlinson to that role. He's no longer there. Himmelberg's played a little bit of ruck, but he's undersized ruckman anyway. They played Jeremy Finlayson as a little bit of a chop out.
Yeah, it'll
all
be
of those guys. I mean, Patton was their guy, right?
Yeah.
Patton was the guy they wanted that role.
So he could fill that shoe a little bit.
So I think there's a role there if they allow that to happen. I'm not sure how they'll structure, but I'm hoping he gets some time in the JLT.
Interesting to watch him. Even if Phil Davis or someone has an injury, they could use probably a big boy to swing.
True, or they could go Finlayson back and then have him forward.
Yeah,
there is a lot of different ways you can see him playing. However,
the kicker,
even if he doesn't play, which is what I'm hoping, he's a fantastic VC option. Loophole VC option. Captain's loophole option, I should say.
Loophole and swinging because he's defender forward. So Hill.
Yep. So if you're starting Hill, which I think most people will start,
Hill.
You can start him the opposite side and then rotate them through depending on who you've got where and what rookies are playing what week, which gives you a little bit more flexibility. The other thing is, if Darcy Cameron plays, which I think he will play as a ruck forward, he can just be on your bench as a playing ruck making you cash. So you can have your loophole as that swing player that can swing between forward and defence. And the best thing is, you can VC Grundy 11 times of the year, and the only time you cannot VC a premium option is round 21, which is back end of the season where you probably have other zeros on field that aren't even counting.
You'll definitely have other zeros.
I guarantee you by that point you will have some no name floating zero that doesn't matter. So I do think that there's a great potential for him as a loophole option, and I haven't moved him out of my team so far.
Yeah, a loophole that could possibly get games.
Exactly right. Yeah, it'd be fantastic if he does get games, but if he doesn't, you got a loophole there. So yeah, really guy that I'm looking forward to,
and all pending on Cameron getting games for Collingwood.
Yeah, as well. I think that he's probably the most logical choice there, unless you're playing a loophole ruckman. The best loophole ruckman outside of the Kieran Briggs, who is not really a ruckman, is Comden. I think he's a North Melbourne guy, 117k ruck forward. So so he's the one that you would change with Darcy Cameron and you might play Darcy Cameron forward if he's playing, and a whole bunch of different things.
And these other rookies.
Lachlan Ash, we've touched on him briefly. Unfortunately, he's 193k, so for me, I wouldn't be touching him anyway. Too expensive for a rookie for me. But he has defender mid status, ready-made halfback flanker, can slot in literally round one, but unfortunately, it's GWS. Any other club in Australia, apart from maybe Collingwood and Geelong, he's probably starting round one. Because of that, I don't think he is. But if he does, expect Williams to get more midfield time, which will improve his stocks as well. Tom Green, same issue. 190 centimetres and 89 kilos. Big body midfielder. Again, any other team, he's starting round one.
Good for probably a keeper league. But again, GWS like to get some games into their players. If Haitley and these other boys can't get a gig, and they were still fairly high draft picks, it might take a little bit of time. Can get the ball, can get the contested ball. But I think as far as SuperCoach numbers and stuff go in, it'll be interesting to see how he goes against the bigger boys.
Yeah, true. And look, so what happened with GWS's draft is that they had pick 6 and pick 10. They were worried that if they didn't upgrade their pick to pick 4, which was Ash, that they would be forced to take Tom Green at pick 6 and reduce their value. So
and they did well. They pretty much we're just going to do it because we can now get two top 5 picks.
And Tom Green has been touted as a top 5 pick for the whole year. So
they're like, we'll just take 2 people in the top 5 and
absolutely. Days. And for GWS, why not? I mean, it's another 2 top 10 picks to the 18 that they already have on their team.
Why not?
But because of that, I don't see him playing early because again we've gone through the midfield depth. It's just crazy.
It's huge. And people get sucked in because he's like 30k cheaper than other people. Don't fall for it.
And they also still have Haitley and Caldwell that haven't played yet. Xavier O'Halloran, who's a fantastic player.
Where's he going to play? Unless they have the injury issues they had last year, even then it'd be hard.
True.
It's hard.
Now, interestingly, the latter picks that they had, Jake Riccardi and Tom Hutchison. They are both mature age recruits designed to be ready-made players this year for depth.
And they're 117k, good price.
They are. So Riccardi is a mature age forward and taken from the VFL from Williamstown, designed to cover the loss of John Patton. Now, unfortunately, I don't think he's going to be playing in their first team. But if they get an injury to Himmelberg or to Finlayson, you can see someone like Riccardi coming in and making an impact. I don't know whether he'll score well. That's all up in the air, but I think we'll get at least 2 games of knowledge before having to look at him.
Fair call.
Hutchinson, the complete opposite, a complete outside player who can apply good defensive pressure. I think we'll probably see him more as a forward pressure player, as opposed to a midfield pressure player, just because of his height. He's a short player. I think he's 175 centimeters. But obviously aggression, defensive pressure, etc.
Well, being a Hutchinson, maybe he'll build in price for us.
Oh, you Hutchies builders. I respect that. No, good work.
That was a tradie joke.
Construction joke. Preseason watch, obviously Green and Jacobs. They're probably the two most important picks to watch.
Yep, and Kelly, I think, if he watches preseason.
Well,
if you
as long as he doesn't get injured.
That's what I mean. If you don't hear any negative press about Jelly, then I'd be definitely considering him strongly for my side.
My issue is, who do you take out?
That's hard.
Oh, I've looked at it. Every time I look, I'm like...
Well, I'm going him instead of like a Fife or something. For a point
every
of difference.
single person that you choose instead of like them, it's like...
Well, Fife is like 40 to 45% owned. So for me, I'd be choosing Josh Kelly at 35% less ownership.
Fife goes big and...
Yeah, but Josh Kelly will go big when he's there too. And Fife did have shoulder reconstruction. So for me, I'm going with Jelly if he's fit.
I don't mind it.
Never go with someone after a shoulder reco.
I don't hate it.
Yes, right.
Anyway, breakout contenders, I've got nil. I don't think there will be any mid-price breakouts for the GWS Giants. I think it's going to be people coming back from injury who are already there or already proving guns. Yep. There's going to be no legitimate breakouts.
The other one is Jelly going from premium to ultra premium.
Pretty much.
That's about it.
I think he's already ultra premium. It's like ultra premium. Ultra.
Yeah, ultimate. It's like BP Ultimate.
That was a Killer Instinct reference for those playing at home.
I missed it. Anyway, that pretty much wraps us up for the Giants. And look, stay tuned and we'll hit... I don't even know who we have next. Hawthorn, North Melbourne.
Someone. Hawthorn, I think.
All those peeps. And we'll get those out to you very shortly.
Cheers, guys.
Cheers, guys. Boy.